Welcome back to For Love and Justice. I'm Elise Williams-Reichard, and today we're going to talk about a lot of things, like who am I? Why am I doing this podcast? What is For Love and Justice? We're going to get into all of those things because I got excited to launch my podcast and start recording, and then I realized I haven't really talked about my why, which sounds like I'm running an MLM, but I promise I'm not. So who am I? I gave a little bit of my background in my previous episode, How to Vote and Are We? So without regurgitating all of that, I'm a writer, I'm a storyteller, I'm an editor, I'm a Swiftie, I'm an auntie, I'm a sister, I'm a friend, I'm all of the things. I am a childless cat lady, and not by choice, but we will get into that later in this episode. So I graduated from the University of Central Arkansas in 2014 with a BA in professional or technical writing and journalism. I've been working in print and digital media for the past decade. By day, I manage an editorial department at a tech company, but For Love and Justice is not affiliated, so I will not be name dropping. This is my passion project for me, myself, and I. And you. But rewinding back to the little journalism aspect. So I went into, digital media. I've also dipped my toe into print media. But I've also always been drawn to journalism and interviewing people, human behavior, psychology, all of it. So For Love and Justice is kind of wrapping all of those things into one. It's also named after Sailor Moon. If you're not familiar, do a quick Google search. You've seen her, you know her. But she referred to herself as a soldier who fights for love and justice. And I've always been obsessed with Sailor Moon and felt a real kinship because her biggest strength is not herself, it's her friends, and it's her ability to make friends with just about anyone and kind of cross the aisle. And her friends always come in and save the day and kick ass while she just cries in a corner. So even though I'm doing this by myself, it's a big, scary thing. And I don't like to do much of anything without my friends. So I'm going to bring them on the podcast, give them the comfy chair. And we're going to talk about some real shit. Okay, but back to me. We all know we're more than what we do for work. We're more than our degree. We're more than our job title. I recently discovered that I am neurodivergent as hell. I've got a few things going on. And that has just led me down this whole new path of self-discovery and finding out all of my friends are also neurodivergent. We find each other. And it's really helped me understand that the only way we can really connect with each other, because as humans, we need human connection. As much healing work as we can do on our own, we also need people to challenge us and push us and question us and help us grow. And we can't do that if we don't connect vulnerably. And part of connecting vulnerably isn't just about being vulnerable. It's about listening empathetically as well. So this podcast, as well as just a place to connect with my friends and have fun conversations, because I think we're really cute and smart and funny. This is also a place to have vulnerable conversations where maybe we don't agree with each other. Maybe I don't know everything on a topic. That's very likely. I don't pretend to know everything about everything. Only Sailor Moon and Taylor Swift. But past that, I'm always open to learn something new. And I think there needs to be seats at the table for everyone. So I'm just creating that space. And I didn't mention this, but I've dipped my toe into podcasting before. My bestie Malia and I had a podcast called Eavesdropping. And that was where I fell in love with podcasting. And I really found my voice as an adult woman. because I talked in the last podcast about how I went a bit nonverbal as a teenager. And writing has always been easier for me because now that I know I'm neurodivergent and my brain works a little differently, processes very slowly, my mouth sometimes moves quicker than my brain. But podcasting really helped me figure out that I can speak in a public forum. Who knew? And not only that, but like it's fun. I enjoy it. So I've really missed it ever since then. But I also had a little rejection sensitivity. We did the podcast for a couple years. No, I mean, we had a few listeners, Chad from, oh, what is the Bachelor show? No, not Love Island. Bachelor in Paradise. Chad from Bachelor in Paradise. I know he listened to a podcast episode we did. Ask me how I know. I love telling that story. But past that, it was very small. So I've been wanting to do it again, but it's the fear of failure and of no one listening. But again, I'm doing this for me. Thank you for being here. I'm also doing it for you. But if no one listens other than my best friends who I know are listening, I love y'all. Thank you. Then that's fine because I'm putting this out into the universe. It's what I want to spend my time doing. And I've recently realized just how much, a big reason I'm doing this podcast is because the people in power stay in power by making it so hard to keep up with their tomfoolery and shenanigans that we don't feel we're informed enough to vote. And keeping up with the news is pretty much a full-time job. And I don't know about you, but I have a full-time job. It's related to keeping up with the news. But even then, it can be a lot. It can be a lot. So that's why I'm here. And that's why my friends are here, because I don't know everything. I don't have all the answers. And my friends don't either, but together we can help piece it together, and I think there's an aspect too of hearing from real people. And part of it is, this is a local podcast. I want to speak to people in Central Arkansas because I feel like we are so forgotten about and we need help. We need our stories told. We are a little blue dot in a big red sea. And the tide is changing, but I just think there's something to hearing from real Arkansans about what's actually going on instead of, you look at the news and Little Rock is one of the most dangerous cities to live in, and the education is in the shitter, and we are the highest ranked state for maternal mortality rate and infant mortality rate. If not the highest, we're up there, guys. Feel free to look it up and check me because we up there. I have many reasons for starting a podcast, but mostly I just want to. Same reason I dyed my hair blue and pink before that, because I fucking want to. I also got my nose pierced recently at 32 years old, and I got my second holes. Finally, because I've been wanting to do that since I was 17, and I've always felt like I was too old, even at age 17. I think I'm just naturally old. So anyway, life is short. Do what you want. So, fun fact, I had a psychic come to my birthday party back in July, and this was the best psychic. If you need a psychic, Ruby Patchouli, highly recommend. Everything she said came true for everyone. It was incredible. But she said that in my past life, I was a town crier. And I was the town crier. So a podcast is fitting. And I also have a newsletter and a Facebook group because my ADHD ass just can't keep up with one thing. I have to do all of the things. I guess. So, yeah, if podcasts are not your thing, you can also join my Facebook group. You can also join my newsletter. The newsletter is probably the most infrequent one that I send, but it does alert you when there is a new podcast out. So I know I mentioned I am a childless cat lady, not by choice. So we're going to get into it. So I talked about my career, my friends, my hobbies, all of that. I've also been married to my soulmate and my shit sandwich since November 9th, 2019. We have a sassy Russian blue named Laz and a Labrador named Ginger. Both are rescues. And we recently adopted a feisty little ferret we named Mochi. This family is my whole world, but of course, I dream of becoming a mother. Um, that's my biggest dream in the whole world. And my husband and I have been trying to create a family for about 2.5 years now. We've been married almost 5. And it hasn't been easy. And it hasn't been easy, especially in Arkansas. I mentioned we have the highest maternal mortality rate. And since since Roe v. Wade was overturned a couple years ago, it was right when I started trying to get pregnant. And for some people, those two things might not connect, but I'm here today to talk about why they do. And I'm sorry if my voice gets shaky, but why I am so annoying on social media and why I'm so loud about reproductive rights despite me wanting to have a baby. You wouldn't think, I'd be intending on getting an abortion, but guess what? I've had to. So we're going to talk about it. So I was one of those people who said when I was younger that, first of all, always been pro-choice, always been good for her, not for me. But I always said, even though I support a woman's right to choose, I would never personally get an abortion. I would never need that myself, because I want children. I want a lot of kids. I want a big, loud, happy family. I want keeping up with the Reicherts. I want all of it. And yet I still needed abortion care about a year ago. Like I said, my husband and I have been trying for quite some time. And we're going through all of the testing to see what's going on. We are getting help, and I have an amazing doctor. I did have to switch doctors while getting pregnant because of the United Healthcare insurance debacle with Conway Regional. I then switched to Baptist, and then the same thing happened there. I'm not going to get into the details of that because it honestly takes me to a very pissed off place. But I ended up at Baptist in Little Rock, and I have an amazing, amazing doctor. And thank God I had her when I finally did get pregnant and miscarried. And I did not know I had miscarried for 3 weeks. And my body would not naturally abort the fetus. So my doctor told me I had a couple of options. I could either wait to see if my body would eventually naturally abort the fetus and risk going septic, getting sick myself. Didn't want to do that. My husband did not either. That's the thing. My husband was right there with me, and he was all about whatever the doctor says and whatever I want because it's my body having to go through it. The second option was a DNC, and that is a common medical procedure. I know women who have given birth to a healthy baby and still needed a DNC. But my doctor advised me that a DNC could be invasive. There could be some residual damage from the surgery that could affect future fertility. So my doctor wrote me a prescription for misoprostol, and my husband and I went home. We went to the pharmacy. I was terrified that I would be turned away because I've heard stories about women and their husbands being turned away when they try to fill their misoprostol prescription. But I did not get turned away. I went to Amity Road Pharmacy, and they're phenomenal. The second I told them what I was there for, it was the opposite of what I expected. I just saw empathy wash over their faces. And anyway, then I got home, and my husband was there with me. Sorry. I don't know many people who've been through this, and people don't really talk about it much. So this is really hard. I'm not sure how much to share. But it was traumatic. And luckily I had a husband there to hold my hand the whole time. I don't know how long it lasted. It felt, I couldn't tell you. My husband could, but anyway, my husband and I very much wanted this pregnancy. And yet, technically, I had to have a medical abortion because I miscarried, but my body didn't naturally abort it. And miscarriage is incredibly common. I think we're starting to talk more about how common it is. 1 in 4 pregnancies end in miscarriage. The average is around 6 weeks, and that is when I lost mine. Like I said, I went 3 weeks not knowing, and my body tried really hard, I think, to stay pregnant, even though it wasn't, because I wanted it so badly. Don't ask me about the science there. Not a scientist, not a doctor, just woo woo. So when we talk about abortion care, and about abortion in general, I'm calling it abortion care, because I'm really sick of everyone, when they hear the word abortion, they just think of a woman whose choices and lifestyle they don't particularly agree with, like they think they have some say over her life and her body. So when you hear about abortion, I want you to think of me. I want you to think of women who desperately want to bring life into this world, but not at the cost of our own lives. I don't know about other places, but here in Arkansas, it is still extremely common practice when something goes wrong or scary with a woman in labor. The doctor will turn to the husband and ask, "Would you like me to save your wife or the baby?" as if that's a logical thing you would ask somebody, as if you would logically choose to not prioritize the woman who's bringing life into this world, who's has a life, who pays her taxes, who might have, probably does have other kids at home waiting for her. You're going to send home the man with a dead wife and traumatize all those. That's worth it. I'm really asking right now, because it seems like a lot of people want me to die trying to become a mother, and I can create more children. I'm just going to say it. I know it's not ugly. I know it's not pretty to talk about. But if a doctor were to ask my husband that question, and we've talked about this, that's part of family planning, by the way. My husband and I have had all of these uncomfortable conversations repeatedly. We've had to have them over and over. And not that this was ever a question, but my husband would choose my life. Because again, I can go home and we can create more children. We can have another chance. But for people who want me to die on the table, or wait, if I have another miscarriage, you want me to wait until I go septic. And maybe that's not what you want for me, but that's what's happening. I was shocked that I was able to receive the care I received from my doctor. I mean, I believe my doctor would move mountains for me, and I'm very, very lucky and blessed in that. I did not have a doctor I felt that way about before. I actually interviewed my OBGYNs because of this exact reason, because I knew something like this could happen so easily, and it did. And I just don't think we should ever be made to feel by our doctors like our fears, our issues, our concerns are overdramatic or out of place. So I kept going until I found a doctor who took care of me. No questions asked. So I'll just say that. It's scary out there. If you are trying to conceive, take care of yourself. So yeah, that's my story. I plan to cover many topics, interview many people, hear many different stories, but I felt like I needed to start with my own story because that was really the final trigger and what got me to start this podcast. You know, I've been trying to create life for so long now, and we can create life anywhere. We can create life by writing a book. We can create life by starting a podcast and starting these conversations, having these tough conversations. And I do plan to bring on mothers, more women to tell their stories, whether they are childless cat ladies or childless dog ladies, or they are mothers. Because at the end of the day, it takes a village. Okay, so I said I plan to talk about other things on this podcast, and I do. It's not all going to be all abortion all the time, I promise. But I will cover more about reproductive rights, obviously, equality in general, US and Arkansas politics. I plan to have a segment of the podcast called What the Huck is Going Down in Arkantown, as well as Make It Make Sense. Money in politics, workers' rights, communication and relationships. So we're going to talk about marriage, friendship, breaking generational cycles, all that jazz. Neurodivergence, attachment styles, and of course, pop culture, because like I said, I'm a Swiftie. So we're going to do some lyrical analysis, some album drafts. We're also going to do album drafts for Chappell Roan, Sabrina Carpenter, Charlie XCX. We're going to talk about their decade-long rise to fame and how they never quit and now they've blown up after 10 years. As well as book wrecks, movie wrecks, TV wrecks, all the wrecks. Okay, guys, that's our show. Thanks for spending time with me. Please remember to share with your friends, like, and subscribe to join the fight for love and justice.
You think you just fell out of a coconut tree? You exist in the context of all in which you live and what came before you.